The fallen star discovery in the storm. The rain came down like arrows that night. Rena Thorne pulled her cloak tight as she hurried through the back streets of Windport. Her basket was half full of moon thistle and silver root, herbs that only grew after heavy rains. Her mother needed them for the healing shop by morning. Thunder rolled across the sky. Lightning painted the world white for just a moment. In that flash, Rena saw something strange in the narrow space between two warehouses. A shape that did not belong. Something red and gold crumpled like a broken kite. She stepped closer. Her heart began to race. It was a dragon. A small one, barely bigger than a large dog. Its scales were deep crimson with edges of gold. One wing stretched out at a wrong angle. The other was folded against its side. Blood mixed with rainwater on the cobblestones. Rena knelt down. She had never been this close to a dragon before. Most humans never were. Dragons lived in their floating citadels above the clouds. They came down to the human cities only for trade or politics. They were powerful. They were dangerous. And this one was dying. The little dragon opened one eye. It was amber-colored, bright like a candle in the dark. Fear and pain lived in that eye. But also something else. A question. A hope. Rena made her choice in that moment. She set down her basket and reached out slowly. The dragon flinched but did not pull away. She could feel heat coming from its body, warmer than any fever she had ever touched. "I will help you," she whispered. "Please trust me." The healing begins. Getting the dragon to her family's shop was not easy. He was heavier than he looked. Rena wrapped him in her cloak and carried him through the rain, staying in the shadows. If anyone saw her with an injured dragon, questions would come. Questions she could not answer yet. The shop was dark when she arrived. Her mother was asleep upstairs. Rena lit a single lamp in the back room where they prepared medicines. She laid the dragon on the wide wooden table, the same table where they ground herbs and mixed poultices. The wound on his wing was deep, not a tear from flying into something. This was clean, sharp, made by a blade or a claw. Someone had hurt him on purpose. Rena washed the wound with warm water and a tincture of healing moss. The dragon hissed but stayed still. She could see intelligence in his eyes. He understood she was trying to help. As she worked, she noticed something odd. A dark powder clung to the edges of the cut. It was not dirt from the street. It was not soot from a chimney. She touched it carefully and felt a strange coldness. The powder seemed to drink heat from her fingertip. She wiped it away as best she could and bandaged the wing with clean linen. Then she mixed sugar into warm goat milk and offered it to the dragon in a shallow bowl. He drank slowly, never taking his eyes off her face. "What is your name?" she asked softly. "Can you understand me?" The dragon made a sound. Not words, but something between a purr and a hum. He lifted one small claw and touched her hand. Just for a moment. A gesture of thanks, Rena smiled. For the first time that night, she felt the fear leave her chest. "I will call you Little Star," she said, "because you fell from the sky." Whispers in the dark, the dragon slept. Rena sat beside him, watching his breathing steady and slow. She should have been tired, but her mind would not rest. Questions circled like birds. Why was a dragon alone in the storm? Where had he come from? Who had hurt him? A sound made her look up. A scrape on the roof, slow and deliberate, footsteps heavy and careful. Rena turned down the lamp until the room was nearly black. She moved to the window and looked up. Two shadows crossed the skylight, both large, both moving with purpose. They stopped directly above her. Rena held her breath and listened. "The prince is dead by now." The voice was deep, rough like stones grinding together. "The storm will hide the body. And if they find him," a second voice, higher but colder, "they will blame the humans. The emperor will rage. The treaty will break. War will begin and we will rise in the chaos." "What about the weapon?" "The tainted blade? Already hidden in the human district. When they search, they will find it. The humans will burn for what we did." Rena felt ice in her veins. "Prince." They said prince. The dragon on her table was not just any dragon. He was royalty. And these voices above her wanted him dead, wanted to start a war, wanted to blame her people. The shadows moved again, sliding away into the darkness. Rena waited until she could no longer hear them. Then she returned to the table. The little dragon, Prince Kieran, she now understood, was watching her. His amber eyes were wide and knowing. He had heard too. "They will come looking for you," Rena whispered. "And when they do, we must be ready to tell the truth. She gathered her courage and her herbs. By dawn, she would need to take the prince to the dragon citadel. She would need to stand before the emperor himself. She would need to speak words that could save or doom her entire city. But first, she would make sure the prince was strong enough to face what was coming. Because the storm outside was nothing compared to the storm that waited above the clouds. Rena Thorne, herb gatherer and healer's daughter, did not sleep that night. She prepared for a trial she did not yet understand. And the wounded prince beside her began to heal, one slow breath at a time. The dawn would bring judgment. But tonight, in this small room lit by a single lamp, a girl and a dragon formed a bond that would change everything. The Court of Flames' journey to the sky morning arrived with pale light and nervous energy. Rena wrapped Prince Kieran carefully in soft cloth, making sure his injured wing was supported. Her mother had woken and gasped at the sight, but Rena explained everything quickly. The older woman's face went from shock to determination in moments. "You must go to the citadel," her mother said. "But take this." She pressed a small stone into Rena's palm. It was smooth and warm, carved with protective symbols. "Your grandmother gave this to me. It has always brought truth to light." Rena kissed her mother's cheek and stepped into the street. The dragon citadel floated above the city like a second sun, all golden towers and silver bridges suspended in the clouds. Getting there meant climbing to the highest dock and taking the skylift, a platform pulled by enormous chains. The dockmaster stared when he saw what Rena carried. "Is that a dragon?" His voice shook. "The Emperor's son," Rena said clearly. "I must bring him home." The dockmaster's face went pale. He waved her onto the platform without another word. The chains began to move, pulling them upward through mist and wind. Prince Kieran pressed against Rena's chest, his small heart beating fast. The citadel grew larger and larger. Stone walkways appeared through the clouds. Guard towers rose like teeth. And at the center a palace of white marble and bronze with banners that snapped in the high wind. Dragons circled overhead. Some landed on balconies to watch. Others called out in their own language, sounds like bells and thunder mixed together. The platform stopped at a grand entrance. 2 dragon guards stood waiting, their scales dark blue and green, their spears gleaming. They did not speak. They simply pointed toward the massive doors that led inside. Rena walked forward. Each step felt heavier than the last. The Emperor's judgment. The throne hall was vast. Pillars rose to a ceiling painted with stars and ancient battles. The floor was polished stone that reflected everything like dark water. Dragons filled the balconies, hundreds of them, their eyes glowing in the shadows. At the far end, on a throne carved from a single piece of black crystal, sat Emperor Dravos. He was enormous. His scales were midnight blue with veins of silver running through them like lightning frozen in time. His horns curved back like a crown. His eyes were the color of molten gold. When he saw Rena carrying his son, those eyes widened, then narrowed. "Approach." His voice rolled through the hall like distant thunder. Rena walked the long path to the throne. Her legs wanted to shake, but she would not let them. Prince Kieran stirred in her arms, making a soft sound of recognition. She stopped at the base of the throne and bowed her head. "Emperor Dravos, I found your son injured in the storm. I have brought him home." The Emperor rose. He descended from the throne in 3 powerful strides. His presence was overwhelming, like standing next to a mountain that could move. He reached out one massive claw, and Rena carefully transferred the young prince into his father's grasp. Emperor Dravos examined his son with a gentleness that surprised her. His eyes found the wound, the bandage, the careful healing work. Then he looked at Rena. "You are human," he said. "Why should I believe you did not cause this harm?" Before Rena could answer, a voice cut through the hall. "Because humans are weak and treacherous, my lord. This is clearly a trap." A dragon stepped forward from the shadows. His scales were deep red, almost black, and scarred from many battles. He wore armor decorated with medals and a cape of dark leather. This was General Vorthon, commander of the dragon military. The girl probably hurt the prince herself, Vorthon continued, then pretended to save him to gain favor. "I say we question her under fire." Murmurs ran through the watching dragons. Some nodded. Others looked uncertain. Emperor Dravos held up one claw for silence. "What say you, human? How did my son come to be in your city, wounded and alone?" Rena took a breath. She thought of the voices on her roof. The words about blaming humans. The plot to start a war. Someone wanted him dead, she said clearly, and they wanted humans to take the blame. I heard them speak on my roof last night. They said the treaty would break, that war would begin, that they would rise in the chaos. The hall erupted. Dragons roared and hissed. General Vorthan's eyes flashed with something dangerous. Anger, but also fear. Lies, Vorthan snarled. The girl invents stories to save herself. Then let her prove it, said a new voice. A smaller dragon stepped forward. His scales were copper-colored, and he wore robes marked with symbols of learning. This was Scholar Fenix, keeper of ancient laws. The trial by flame, Fenix said. Let truth be tested by fire. If she speaks with honor, the flames will know. If she lies, they will consume her. Emperor Dravos considered this. His son made a small sound in his arms, almost like a protest. The emperor looked down at the young prince, then at Rena. So be it, Dravos said. Prepare the trial. The breath of truth. The trial chamber was a circular room with a bridge of white stone crossing a shallow pool. On either side stood bronze dragon heads, their mouths open and waiting. These were connected to ancient pipes that would release the trial flames. Rena stood at the beginning of the bridge. Prince Kirin had been taken to the healers, though he had reached for her as they carried him away. Now she was alone, with only her courage and her grandmother's stone clutched in her hand. Scholar Fenix explained the rules. The flames read the heart. Speak truth and they burn gold. Speak lies and they burn red. Poison in the soul burns black. Captain Thane, leader of the guard, stood ready with a tablet. He would ask the questions. His scales were gray and scarred, his eyes sharp but not unkind. Did you harm Prince Kirin? Thane asked. No, Rena said. Her voice was steady. The flames came forth. They were gold, warm and gentle, curling around her like curious cats. Did you find him injured? Yes, in the alley behind my family's shop. Gold again, brighter this time. Do you know who hurt him? I do not know their names. But I heard them speak. They wanted the prince dead and humans blamed. The gold flames danced higher, confirming her words. The watching dragons shifted, whispers spreading like wind through grass. General Vorthan stood near the wall, his face a mask of stone. But Rena saw his claw move to his belt. She saw him touch something hidden there. One more question, Captain Thane said. Do you wish harm to any dragon in this citadel? No, Rena said. I wish only for peace and truth. The flames rose in a pillar of pure gold, so bright the entire chamber glowed. The dragons gasped. Even Emperor Dravos, watching from his throne, leaned forward. But then something changed. A thin thread of red crept into the gold. It twisted and grew, smoke beginning to rise. Poison, Scholar Fenix shouted. Someone has tampered with the trial. Rena looked around wildly. The red was not coming from her. It was coming from the bronze dragon head on her left. She followed the pipe with her eyes and saw General Vorthan's claw still on his belt, pressing something small and hidden. The general, she cried out. He is controlling the flames. Captain Thane moved like lightning. He crossed the chamber and seized Vorthan's arm. The general snarled and tried to pull away, but Thane was stronger. He ripped open the general's belt pouch. Inside was a small device made of brass and black crystal. It hummed with energy. Fenix took it carefully and held it up to the light. A flame controller, Fenix said, his voice filled with disgust. Banned for 3 centuries. Used to manipulate trials and executions. Emperor Dravos rose from his throne. His presence filled the room like a storm filling the sky. Vorthan, you dare corrupt the sacred trial. I did what was necessary, Vorthan spat. The humans grow too bold. The treaty makes us weak. We should rule them, not trade with them. And you would murder my son to start your war? Dravos's voice was deadly quiet now, more terrifying than any roar. Vorthan straightened. I would do anything to restore dragon supremacy, even sacrifice one prince for the future of our race. The hall erupted in chaos. Dragons roared in anger and shock. Captain Thane and his guards surrounded Vorthan. The general struggled but was overwhelmed. From a side passage, another figure emerged. A elegant dragon with silver scales and cold blue eyes. Lady Seraphine, a noble known for her beauty and ambition. You failed, Vorthan, she said coldly. I told you the plan was too risky. Seraphine? Emperor Dravos turned to her. You were part of this conspiracy? I believed in his vision, she said without shame. But he was a fool to be caught. Arrest her as well, Dravos commanded. Lock them both in the deep cells. They will face judgment when the council assembles. As the guards led the conspirators away, Forthan's eyes met Rena's. They burned with hate. This is not over, human. Others believe as I do. Others will finish what I started. Then he was gone, dragged into the darkness below the citadel. Bonds forged in fire, Rena stood on the bridge, trembling now that the danger had passed. The flames had returned to pure gold, gentle and warm. Scholar Phoenix approached her with a kind expression. "You have great courage," he said. "Not many humans would stand in dragon fire." "I only spoke the truth," Rena replied. "Truth is the greatest courage of all." Emperor Dravos descended to the bridge. He looked at Rena for a long moment. Then, to her shock, he bowed his head slightly. It was a small gesture, but in dragon culture it meant everything. "You saved my son's life," he said. "And you exposed traitors in my own court. The dragon people owe you a debt." "I need no debt," Rena said. "I am only glad Prince Kirin is safe." As if summoned by his name, the young prince appeared at the chamber entrance. A healer walked beside him, but Kirin pulled away and hurried toward Rena. His wing was properly bandaged now, held in a golden brace that would help it heal straight. He reached Rena and pressed his head against her hand. The gesture was pure affection, pure trust. Emperor Dravos smiled, a rare sight that made the watching dragons murmur in wonder. "It seems my son has chosen a friend," he said. "And who am I to question his wisdom?" The hidden truth shadows and allies 3 days passed. Rena was given quarters in the citadel, a beautiful room with windows that looked out over the clouds. She was treated with honor, though some dragons still watched her with suspicion. Change came slowly, even when truth demanded it. Prince Kirin visited her every day. He was learning to speak the human language, his voice high and musical. "Rena, friend," he would say, and it made her heart warm every time. But peace was fragile. General Vorthon and Lady Seraphine sat in the deep cells, but they were not alone in their beliefs. Rena could feel tension in the citadel like a string pulled too tight. On the morning of the 4th day, a young human man arrived at the skylift. He was tall and lean, with dark hair and clever eyes. When he saw Rena in the grand hall, he broke into a smile. "Rena Thorne," he called out. "Still finding trouble, I see." "Joran Vale," Rena laughed. "What are you doing here?" Joran had been her friend since childhood. He worked as a record keeper in the city archive, a place filled with old documents and forgotten history. They embraced quickly. "Your mother sent word," Joran explained. "She thought you might need help, and I think I found something important." He pulled a rolled parchment from his satchel. "I was searching through old trade agreements when I noticed something strange. Large payments from the Dragon Military Fund to a human merchant. A man named Corvus Dane." Rena frowned. "I know that name. He owns warehouses near the docks. But why would dragons pay him?" "That is what I wondered," Joran said. "So I dug deeper. Corvus has been importing black powder from the eastern mines, the same powder used to coat weapons that harm dragons." Rena felt cold understanding wash over her. "The powder on Kirin's wound." "Exactly. I think Corvus is the human connection. Vorthan needed someone on the ground to help frame other humans. Someone greedy enough not to ask questions." Scholar Phoenix appeared beside them, moving silently despite his size. "This is valuable information," he said. "We must investigate this merchant immediately," Emperor Dravos was informed. He called a small council in his private chamber. Only his most trusted advisors were present: Captain Thane, Scholar Phoenix, and now Rena and Joran. "If this Corvus is working with the conspirators, he must be stopped," Dravos said. "But we must be careful. If he senses danger, he will destroy evidence and flee." "Let me go," Rena said. "I know the human district. I can approach him without raising suspicion." "Too dangerous," Captain Thane objected. "He is likely desperate." "Then I will go with her," Joran said. "2 record keepers looking through old shipping documents. Nothing suspicious about that." Emperor Dravos considered. Prince Kirin, who sat on a cushion nearby, chirped softly. He looked at his father with pleading eyes. "Very well," Dravos said finally. "But Thane will send guards to watch nearby. If anything goes wrong, they will intervene immediately." Into the warehouse district smelled of salt and old wood. Ships from across the sea docked here, unloading cargo from distant lands. Corvus Dane's warehouse was one of the largest, a tall building with barred windows and heavy locks. Rena and Joran approached in the late afternoon when workers were changing shifts. They wore simple clothes and carried ledgers, looking like minor officials doing routine checks. A guard stopped them at the door. "State your business, Harbor Authority," Joran said smoothly. "We are reviewing import taxes. Just a standard audit." The guard looked uncertain but stepped aside. The warehouse was dim inside, filled with crates stacked to the ceiling. The smell of dust and metal hung in the air. They moved deeper into the maze of cargo. Rena's heart pounded. She kept her hand on the small knife hidden in her sleeve. A gift from Captain Thane. "There," Joran whispered. He pointed to a door at the back, marked with a symbol that matched the papers he had found. They approached carefully. The door was locked, but Joran had learned a few tricks in the archives. He worked a thin piece of metal into the mechanism until it clicked. The door swung open. Inside was a small office. A desk, a chair, shelves filled with ledgers, and on the wall, a map marked with locations throughout the city. Red pins marked human districts. Black pins marked Dragon Patrol routes. "This is a war map," Rena breathed. Joran was already pulling ledgers from the shelves. "Look at this. Payments from someone called the Silver Serpent. That must be Lady Seraphine. And here orders for black powder, dragon poison, and forged weapons." A sound made them freeze. Footsteps in the warehouse. Heavy and slow, Corvus Dane stepped into the doorway. He was a broad man with gray hair and cold eyes. He held a crossbow already loaded and aimed at them. "Record keepers," he said with a smile that had no warmth. "How clever. But not clever enough." "Corvus Dane," Rena said, trying to keep her voice steady. "You helped General Vorthan hurt Prince Kieran. You helped plan a war." "I helped ensure human survival," Corvus replied. "Dragons have ruled the skies for too long. They need to be brought down, and I will be rewarded when new powers rise. Powers like Vorthan? He sits in a cell now. Your conspiracy failed." Corvus's smile faded. "Then I will finish what he started." He raised the crossbow. Rena dove to the side as the bolt flew. It struck the wall where she had been standing, embedding deep into the wood. Joran threw a ledger at Corvus's face. The merchant stumbled. Rena lunged forward and kicked his knee. He went down with a curse, the crossbow clattering away. But Corvus was strong. He grabbed Rena's ankle and pulled. She fell hard, the air knocked from her lungs. Joran jumped on the merchant's back, trying to hold him down, but Corvus threw him off like a rag doll. The merchant grabbed Rena by the throat. His hands were like iron. She clawed at his face, but her vision was already going dark. Then the wall exploded. Captain Thane burst through the wood like it was paper. His dragon form filled the room, scales gleaming, eyes blazing. He seized Corvus with one claw and lifted him into the air. "Release her," Thane growled. Corvus let go. Rena gasped for air, coughing and shaking. Joran helped her to her feet. 2 more dragon guards entered through the hole in the wall. They bound Corvus with chains that glowed with magic, preventing him from moving. "You will answer for your crimes," Captain Thane said. "Against both dragons and humans." Corvus spat at the ground but said nothing. A new beginning. The trial was held in the Great Hall 3 days later. All of the conspirators stood before Emperor Dravos, General Vorthan, Lady Seraphine, and Corvus Dane. The evidence was overwhelming. Documents, witnesses, and confessions all pointed to their guilt. "You sought to break the treaty," Emperor Dravos said, his voice echoing through the hall. "You sought to murder my son. You sought to ignite a war that would have destroyed both our peoples. For these crimes you are banished. You will be taken beyond the edge of the world and left there. You will never return." The conspirators were led away. Some dragons in the crowd cheered. Others were silent, troubled by how close they had come to disaster. Rena stood with Joran near the back of the hall. Prince Kieran sat beside them, his wing nearly healed now. The young dragon had grown in the past weeks. He was stronger, braver, and spoke more words every day. Emperor Dravos called Rena and Joran forward. They walked the long path to the throne, the same path Rena had walked that first frightening day. "Rena Thorn," Dravos said. "Joran Vale, you have served both our peoples with courage and wisdom. I wish to offer you a place in this citadel as ambassadors. You would speak for humans in our councils and help us understand each other better." Rena looked at Joran. He smiled and nodded. She turned back to the Emperor. "We accept," she said. "With honor." The hall erupted in applause. Dragons and the few humans present cheered together. It was a sound that had never been heard before in this ancient place. Prince Kieran jumped up and wrapped himself around Rena's shoulders. "Friend," he said clearly. "Always friend." Rena hugged him gently. "Always," she agreed. Later, as the sun set beyond the clouds, Rena stood on a balcony with Joran. The city below glowed with lights. The sky above was filled with stars. "Do you think it will last?" Joran asked. "The peace? I think we have to make it last," Rena said. "One day at a time. One friendship at a time. Like you and Kieran. Like me and Kieran." A warm wind blew across the balcony. Somewhere in the citadel, dragons sang evening songs, and for the first time in generations, the sound was not of war or dominance. It was simply of life, of hope. Rena thought of her mother down in the city, probably mixing herbs by lamplight. She thought of the healing shop in the alley where she had found a broken prince. She thought of how one choice in a storm had changed everything. Prince Kieran appeared beside her, his wing fully spread now, perfect and strong. He looked at her with those amber eyes so full of trust and affection. "Fly tomorrow?" he asked. Rena smiled. "Yes, we will fly tomorrow." And in that moment, under the stars and above the clouds, a new story began. Not of humans and dragons as enemies, but as friends, as allies, as two peoples who learned that the greatest strength comes not from fire or steel, but from understanding and courage. The sky was vast. The future was unwritten, and together, they would shape it into something beautiful. The end.